mean, it's coaching in cars, man.
A lot of limiting beliefs out there, thinking, how in the world am I going to accomplish something like that?
Not dissimilar to anybody.
The greatest risk we were afraid of that did not come to fruition is...
If I started a new business tomorrow, the first thing I would do is hire a coach.
All right, guys, welcome back to Coachin in Cars. I have a very special guest today, John Budinich.
Yep.
He is the starter of Upstate Cars and Coffee, which is like this giant event up here in the Upstate. When I moved here, I had no car community. And then John's event is what kind of started to get me into the car community. So very special guest. And as you can see, I'm in the passenger seat today, which is obviously a very different venue for me. But we're in his Porsche that he's had for a few years now. So John, why don't you just go ahead and introduce who you are. Just tell me quickly a little bit about the car that we're driving today, and then we'll dive into the Upstate Cars and Coffee.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Ren. Again, John Budinich. I started Cars and Coffee, the Upstate, back in 2011, March. It's been running straight through since. It was 12 months of the year up until last year. Last year I scaled back to 4 times a year because another event came into the area called Obey the Crave Cars and Coffee at Bridgeway Station. So we're rotating events. The car you're in today, because it's not the sport seats of your Z28 and I can fit, it's a 2022 911 Carrera S. This was a dream car of mine that I was able to finally order back in early 2021 as a 22 model. And my wife and I are having a blast putting a lot of miles on it. So it's not a garage queen right now. I'm just approaching 30,000 miles.
Yeah. And I mistakenly thought it was Miami blue, but you corrected me. It's close.
Shark blue.
But it's called shark blue, which is a unique color for Porsche because they got rid of Miami blue. Is that right?
2021 was the last year of Miami blue. They discontinued it after that. And then the color that's on this car is called shark blue, which was the launch color for the 2022 GT3s.
Yeah.
So
it's beautiful.
Went with that, and then we did a little two-tone on the interior, chalk, which is the light color you see in the photos, and slate gray is the dark color.
Yeah.
Gave it a little contrast being a two-tone.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. And I'm a Porsche guy. I know I own Camaros, and I'm a Chevy guy, but ultimately my dream one day is to own a Porsche.
Well, we'll forgive you the Chevys, but
yeah.
I grew up in a Chevy family, so it's not bad.
There you go. We were cut from the same cloth,
yes,
so to speak. So Upstate Cars and Coffee, you started this thing back in 2011.
Right.
And in March. And just tell me, like, why did you start an event like that?
Sure. Well, back in 2011, I was involved in a number of different automotive-related events. I was the Upstate area director of the local Porsche Club of America. I was the secretary of the local Sandlapper chapter of the BMW Club. And I was involved in an event that was run at BMW Manufacturing called Euro Auto Festival.
Okay.
I was in 6 years in the two clubs as an officer, and then 10 years at Euro, the last 2 being as chairman.
Okay.
And the reason I started Cars and Coffee was I had done some research. I saw about the one that started it all in Irvine, California.
Yeah.
And the problem was the clubs didn't do anything together. They had different insurance rules. They had different classes. They wanted to run shows based on each of their own rules. Whereas I wanted something for the enthusiast. I wanted something where you could see anything and everything. And I reached out to the guys in Irvine. I reached out to the guys in Atlanta who do caffeine and octane. And I started Cars and Coffee, the Upstate, here in Greenville. I found a parking lot where the main store had closed in the front of the lot. It had a Starbucks and a Liquid Highway. And I said, let's see how many enthusiasts show up. The first event, we had 17 cars. My last event, which was last September, we had over 1,200 cars.
Yeah.
So the community in Greenville has grown a lot. The diversity of types of cars, you'll find everything from rat rods, 55 Chevys, pickup trucks, all the way through brand new Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, Ford GTs, and everything in between. And what really got me charged up about these events was not just the fact of the opportunity to meet fellow-minded people who are into cars, but also the fact that people brought their children out.
Yeah.
And one thing I realized, as you can tell, I'm not as young as Ren. One thing I realized, if we don't get the younger generation involved, the hobby will die eventually.
Yep.
Whereas when I see a father bring a son or a mother bringing their daughter and find out, hey, girls build cars too. Girls race cars. I've featured Women in Drive a couple of times.
Yeah.
Where women business owners in the automotive field or racers, they come out and then people go, wow, I didn't realize we can all do that.
Yeah.
So it's not just, the typical grease monkey guy in the back with his rolled up sleeves and, grease on his arms. It's really a hobby for anybody.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing for me is, normally on this channel, we're interviewing business owners. They're for-profit businesses. They're growing and scaling their businesses. And they have this unique perspective about how we build culture and how we attract talent and like all of these things. But the cool thing is like I don't want to say accidentally, but ultimately you accidentally created like this culture and this following by pretty much a not-for-profit business, essentially, that turned into that.
Exactly.
And now we have this culture, and dude, I'll tell you, when we go to a Cars and Coffee event here in the Upstate, I came from Omaha, which is like the land of 1320 and cars, and like it's all about racing, right? But there's something different about the culture here, and I love it. It's so inclusive, no matter what car you have, no matter what you bring.
Yep.
Everybody's cut from the same cloth. And really, the cool thing is you created that out of nothing. So 17 cars to 1,200 cars, incredible. So tell me, after that first event, you had 17 cars. What made you say, I'm going to keep doing this over and over and over again until eventually it was 1,200?
Well, part of the reason is, and I didn't really create it, I was a catalyst. I mean, that's what really in your line of work, a coach really is a catalyst. The people built the event,
Yeah.
And part of it was I learned how to do Facebook just because of the event. I didn't do it for social media. I'm of that older school, flip phones and all that kind of stuff. But I took pictures of all the cars that were there. And by taking the pictures, the owners were asking me, why are you doing this? And I said, look, I want to post albums for every event. And for the first couple of years, I was able to take a picture of every car that showed up, and more people were seeing it on Facebook and on social media saying, hey, look, this looks like a neat event. Let me go out there too, and maybe my car will be in a picture. Yeah. Well, now, at the events being so large, there's got to be 15, 20 different photographers that show up at each event.
Yeah.
And they keep that spirit going for me by posting albums, and I'll post the links to those albums. I'll credit them for all their work. I tell them to watermark their work because that's their deal. I'm just running an event now because 1,200 cars, there's no way I can take pictures of everything.
I use a Scott Daigle photo for one of my photos. So yeah, absolutely.
And the other part of it was, as I started talking to these owners and finding out how easy it is to talk to people when you share a common interest. So we're all out there. It wasn't a car show. One thing about Cars and Coffee is it's not a show. There's no classes, there's no trophies, there's no going back and forth saying who's voting for what. It's a gathering of enthusiasts is what we call it.
Yeah.
And anybody who has any car, come on out. Doesn't even have to be a car. It could be a motorcycle, a truck, it could be a van. But once you meet people like this, you can easily start talking to each other. And I've worked, in the Greenville area over 40 years.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I've met more people doing this event once a month than I met in 40 years of work.
Yeah.
Because when you have that comfort level, like when I first met you, Ron, we started talking about cars.
Yeah.
Well, then it was easy to fall into, well, what's your family like? What do you do here? Do you play golf? Do you do this? Do you do that? And that's how you build relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's really cool too about, specifically your event, you've created like this circle of influence through a common thread. And it's so funny because, I didn't get on camera like all the interactions that we did, but we spent, arguably an hour and a half, 2 hours walking around, and you're just introducing me to all of these people, business owners. You're introducing me to amazing exotic car owners, people that I didn't even know existed in Greenville, cars I didn't know existed in Greenville. I mean, you guys were like, oh, this guy owns a Singer Porsche. I had no idea that there was even a Singer in Greenville, and it's like, it's really cool. And I think what's very interesting, to just bridge the gap between the channel and what you do. And the reason that I wanted you on here is because circle of influence in the coaching community is huge. There's 1,000 coaches out there. There's 1,000 people that do what I do. Now, I would argue they don't do it as well as we do or how we do it, but ultimately there's a lot of people that do what I do. It's all about the people that you know that can introduce you to the people that they know who can introduce you to the people that need your service, right? So what was so unique to me is you've created this circle of influence through a common thread with Upstate Cars and Coffee. And the people that you introduced me to are arguably people that I would never meet on my own, even if I door knocked them.
Nor would I.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so cool that you've created that.
I think part of it too was the fact that you mentioned earlier, I didn't start this as a for-profit.
Yeah.
I started it as an enthusiast. People from day one told me, how you could monetize this and everything else. And Caffeine and Octane in Atlanta is a prime example. Bruce, he owns the event. He's got a TV show. NBC Sports reached out to him to do a TV show. Okay. He bought Lanier Raceway. But that's great. But I looked at people and I said, I already had a job.
Yeah.
I didn't need a second job.
Yeah.
I was doing this for enthusiasts and to meet people.
Yep.
And like you said, as I started doing it from an enthusiast perspective, people realized I wasn't out to look for anything from them.
Yeah.
So these business owners were happy to share the fact, hey, why don't you come to an event I'm having in my place, and you see his collection of 6 Porsches, or another one who's got a collection of 7 Ferraris sitting in a garage that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the fact there's a single Porsche you didn't realize was here.
Yeah.
Well, I met this woman, she's got an F40 Ferrari that not many people know is sitting in the upstate of South Carolina.
I know. And I would say if you're a business owner and you're watching this, that is purpose-driven leadership at its finest. In any company, I am always teaching you how it's so important that you create purpose inside of your organization that people are drawn to and people are attracted to. Those are how you're going to attract high-level talent. You're going to attract people that you actually want in your organization, the right people, the right seats, doing the right things at the right times, right? And you've done it with an event, which is super cool. And you've attracted all of these business owners. You've attracted all of these car people and enthusiasts into something because you all have a common purpose and you all really, at the end of the day, share basically the same values about vehicles. And that's how you need to build a business at the end of the day.
And a lot of these people, I haven't done any real business with them because I always worked for large corporations in the IT community, but they've become friends.
Yeah.
And if I needed something or if I need a reference for somebody, like say yourself, if you're looking to have, some commercial building built, well, you just met the gentleman who can handle that for you right now today. The other thing is, I learned something in my business experience a long time ago. People said, well, how can I do an event? And I've tried to mentor, I guess you would say, some people. The event you just went to this morning, Michelangelo, he and I started together. We're splitting now the time of doing things. I'm helping him with what works, what doesn't work. I've helped a few others do other similar type events in the area. But I learned something years ago called, and maybe you're aware of it, the circles of opportunity. I had a very smart HR person, which is a contrary term sometimes. You can do anything you want, but people think that the companies or the business community puts restriction on them. No, they don't. You put restrictions on yourself. When I worked for Michelin Tire, they said, are you willing to work in South America or China? And if I said no, well, I've made my circle smaller. And so on and so forth. Are you willing to work weekends? Are you willing to travel? Are you willing to do this? And then finally, what's left is your true circle of opportunity. Well, I applied that to Cars and Coffee. Do I want to charge? Do I want to have vendors? Do I want to have sponsors? Do I want to do this, that, and the other? And I decided this is the way that I want it to work for me. And I think you may have noticed it worked.
It totally works. And it's so funny, we coach business owners all the time. Like, there are things that we need to say yes to faster inside of a business because there are opportunities that we have to take advantage of now. And we'll learn some mistakes along the way, and that's part of the journey. But ultimately, saying yes to something and making a decision, moves the ball faster. But equally as important, it's important to say no to the things that don't fit your culture, don't fit your vision. And you need to say no to those things because all they are is just just time. I call them time vampires. They're
Right.
just sucking your time and energy out of an organization. Because you told me the story when we first met about how you said no to some sponsorship opportunities.
Right.
You said no to some things. It's like that was so important. Maybe you did know, but at the time you were protecting your culture and your vision of what you wanted this to be by saying no to things. But you also said yes to a lot of things that made it what it is today. So it's finding that balance. And again, that's purpose-driven leadership at the end of the day.
I tried to define my brand before going into it.
Yep.
Like I said, I didn't want to do the sponsor vendor type deal because it's a hassle because you got to worry about liability, taxes, conflict of interest, so on and so forth. But also I didn't want it to become like a flea market. I wanted the people coming to the event to enjoy it enough to where they'd want to come back.
Yep.
And so this way, if you can think about what you want your brand to be before you jump into it, you may not know the details how to make that work yet.
Yeah.
But at least you have a vision and you have a purpose as to where you want this to be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Did I want it to be 1,200 cars a month? No, not really. I mean, it's very big now. In fact, it's kind of big, too big for one person to manage, but I've got some people that help me out. They're fellow enthusiasts and they're willing to do it.
Yeah.
I would have been happy to keep it at 100 cars.
Yeah.
But when I saw how the enthusiast community in the upstate of the South Carolina took to it, I just kept going.
Yeah.
And I changed to, this is my third location. The first one I had 200 spots. The second one I had 300. And now I've got 1,200. And I'll fill it up, unless it's raining.
Yeah.
But even in the rain, I'll get 200 cars show up.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, even the venue we were just at, I can't remember what you told me how many cars were
700 there.
700 today, right? And it was full. Full. And it's just funny, like, if you think about a business and it's like, sometimes you stumble upon success and you're like, I didn't want a $100 million a year business, but I did such a good job of creating a culture and recruiting the right people and doing all these things that all of a sudden it's 100 million and you're like, whoa, what happened? All of a sudden it's 1,200 cars and all of these people from all walks of life, all revenue streams, business owners, non-business owners, kids, they're all coming and flocking to the thing that you built. And at the end of the day, like, the successful business owners that we coach, that's what happens. The people find them. They don't have to go out and find the people. You didn't have to go recruit people to come to this.
No.
It's
all generic.
Exactly. And I hate to use the term from Field of Dreams, but like, if you build it, they will come. If you build something that is captivating to people, they will come to it. If you just you didn't even really have to market. You kind of did, but really it was word of mouth.
Be honest, to this day, I just got a Facebook, Instagram handle 3 months ago.
Yeah.
It's all been on Facebook, and it's just been by publishing albums of the cars that showed up at previous events.
Yeah.
And that's what drove this, and the fact that, now it won't work for every business, but in this case, the fact that there was no pressure to buy anything. There was I wasn't selling them anything. I was giving them an opportunity to meet fellow-minded people.
Yeah.
Now, will that work? That works in a coaching business.
Yeah.
That works in an analysis business. It's not going to work if you're trying to sell somebody a commodity.
Yeah.
But find that, dream, find that model that you want to get into, and then find out ways to do it.
Yeah. So when you look back, I always ask business owners, what do you think is a mistake that you made as you were, building and growing this thing? What was a mistake that you made that, looking back, you're like, man, I really could have avoided that obstacle had I just done this or had I done that?
I guess the biggest obstacle would have been, had I been able to find a permanent location sooner.
Yeah.
Then COVID killed the event for almost a year.
Yeah.
But it killed a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
So,
totally. Forever.
Nobody was crying over the fact Cars and Coffee wasn't there. Although I had a lot of people saying, well, why don't you try this location, try that location? Well, those locations, some of them were viable to do it, but they were extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I would have had to get into the sponsors and all that.
Yeah.
So finding a location that, but again, I didn't know the growth would be this big.
Yeah.
When I first started and I had 200 spots, I said, I'll never fill this lot. And then I guess the secondary mistake would be not, and this is probably just due to the age group I'm in, not getting on board with things like Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok, and all that, YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, I post links for a lot of people that come to the event that do those things, but I never did it myself to promote the event.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't really feel like I had to because it was growing generically.
Yeah.
Now, if I was trying to make a profit by selling things at the event, that would have been a big mistake.
Yeah.
Because then you really need to branch out into multiple ways of marketing the event.
Yeah. Your people poured gas on the fire for you.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just insane. You know, everybody talks about Upstate Cars and Coffee of the Upstate. They say they all call it something.
Oh, they call it Cars and Coffee at Michelin,
Michelin,
or
I
Michelin
know.
Cars and Coffee, because that's the site that hosts my events.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm not upset by that.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they don't call it Cars and Coffee the Upstate LLC, so what? They're having a good time.
Yeah.
And Michelin, you know, they really appreciate the event and the fact that it's their target market.
Yeah, totally.
So, you know, they're happy to let me use the facility as long as I leave it as clean as it was when I got there, if not cleaner. And nobody does anything crazy like burnouts. But that's why I realized very soon, talking to Caffeine and Octane and the Cars and Coffee in Irvine, have a police presence there.
Yeah.
It keeps that 0.01% of people that want to show off from doing that.
Yeah, there's a level of accountability that has to be
Exactly.
there. Yeah, it's like you have employees, but you don't have employees, and you're just trying to make sure that they don't act stupid.
Right. And even an event with 1,200 cars there,
Yeah.
one car does something wrong,
Yep.
that can lose the venue for you.
Well, totally. And I mean, if you look at a business, and you know this, you worked inside of large corporations, one person going against the grain can really ruin it for a lot of other people. So it's so important to have the right people, attract the right talent, attract the right people to your event, attract the right people to your business and your culture, and keep it tight and hold people accountable. When somebody does something stupid at one of your events, you're not allowed to come back. And that's it. And we know who you are. You get put on blast on the internet, and everybody knows your car. They don't know you, but they know your car. And I know, like, I drive a bright red Camaro.
It's hard
if
to
I
hide.
did something stupid, that bright red Camaro is tattooed on people's brains, and the community is going to hold me accountable. So what's really cool, you can go off here. What's really cool is you've essentially created peer-to-peer accountability in your culture, in your small little business, right? Where people hold each other accountable, and realistically coming to your event, people don't do stupid things. And when at the events that I went to in Nebraska, there was a lot of stupid things that happened. There was just no accountability inside of the organization.
And one of the things I noticed at my events, at least, and you know, you would find this, I would believe, in business world as well, at least I did in my experiences, the different clubs that come out to the events, they appreciate the fact that they have a place to go on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
They police that too.
Yeah.
If they see somebody starting to act up, they'll tell them, whoa, stop the revving, or no, you don't want to do that here. We don't want to lose this venue because we appreciate it. And, you know, I don't have to do all of that then, you know. And again, you're building a culture.
Yes.
The culture is we appreciate doing this. We want to keep doing this. So let's just do it within whatever guidelines are there.
Yep. Yeah.
And I found that, you know, in the working world too. I mean, you may have one person that totally goes against the grain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most companies, especially large companies, that person won't be there much longer.
Yep.
You know, but the balance of the team, as long as you get that bad apple out of there, the team becomes successful.
Yeah, and sometimes that bad apple stays long enough and can cover it up long enough that it creates a detriment to the culture.
We've all seen that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been a part of a lot of those things, too. At the end of the day, what I want you guys to hear out of this as a business owner, I know this one's a little, like this interview's a little off the beaten path from what we normally do, but why I felt like it was so important to communicate to the audience was what purpose-driven leadership can look like, building a culture around you and bringing in the right people into the circle that are going to go out and recruit other people to come in and hold each other accountable. Realistically, John has created an amazing culture and business by not even really intending to go out and create an amazing culture in a business, you know, and it's super cool. And if you're a business owner, I would just encourage you, the most important things that you have out there are your people. Go out, find the right people that are going to do the right things for you, and they're going to hold each other accountable. And at the end of the day, it will work out.
Well, Ren, I appreciate the opportunity. I hope I've helped in some respects. Again, I started this really just because of the fact I wanted to do something that was fun for me.
Yep.
And it ended up being fun for people I knew, and then it just grew and grew and grew. Again, it's like any product.
Yeah.
You know, if you can get people to buy into the product will take off.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was amazing. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Thanks
friend.
for riding
Appreciate
the
it.
Porsche.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah,
Anytime.
this is great. All right.